Hello and welcome to the GearyCast, the Malaga fan podcast for all the Gearys out there. I'm your host, Nick Belford, tonight, and I'm joined by the incredible Luke Chambers, not just because he's incredible for being a great podcast presenter, great pundit, a formerly brilliant right-back centre forward, but he's tonight battling the flu, the dreaded man flu, and powering through and helping preview this weekend's game against Racing Santander. Luke, apart from the obvious, how are you feeling?
I feel absolutely fantastic now, Nick. Honestly, I feel like I could give you a cuddle if I were there in person. Thank you, mate. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. But yeah, like you say, the flu's hit the Chambers household. It's currently in my legs, and like we spoke about off air, when you can get that feeling of it's coming. I'm not looking forward to it at all. But how are you, Nick? I'm afraid I haven't got all the incredible words to chuck back at you, but a great host and a great friend of mine. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing okay, mate. It's been one of those weeks. I've been on training courses, and they're very good for you, but it's like information overload. I was similar to yourself on Monday, under the weather, and ended up spending my day lying on the living room floor, waiting for death, but it didn't come. I'm feeling fine now. That's the main thing. And looking forward to Malaga Club de Football getting back on the horse, aiming for 3 points as they head up to Santander this weekend to play Racing and hopefully bring back 3 points with them, because 2025 has not been the year of points so far for Malaga, but we'll look into that a little bit later. As always, as you know, with the GearyCast, we'll bring you the news straight from La Rosaleda. And one of the hottest subjects at the minute emanating from Malaga is the rumoured 3-year deal for a certain young striker who we have been championing all season. The one and only Chupete, the goal-scoring machine from Atletico Malagueño, apparently days away from signing a brand new 3-year deal. Luke, this is great news, isn't it?
It is. It's great news, and it's good to see that it's a 3-year deal. What's put on the table? It's none of this 6-month deal, year and a half kind of thing. They're actually putting a lot of faith in Chupete, Chupete, whatever we're going to call it. He looks like a talent, and we've said many times, Nick, the time is now. I understand the Malagueño thing, I really do, but we've got to be thinking of number one. And if Chupete can come into this first team and get anything between what we're saying is acceptable, 5 and 10 goals in the next 5 months, then it gives him that experience to build on next season. Really happy to get this deal over.
Yeah, it's an interesting one as well, because you'd like to think from Chupe's side. Let's not forget he was out of contract, or may still be out of contract. The ink is not wet yet. At the end of the season. So Malaga moving to protect their asset. More importantly, he is a striker who is scoring for fun down in the Spanish Segunda RF, of which Atletico Malagueño are top at the moment. I think it's 15 goals this season for the young man. But he's got to be getting guarantees in there that he will be bedded into the first team moving forward. We're already seeing that a little bit with his cameos off the bench so far, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, what else can he do to push towards the first team? He's scoring all these goals in Malagueño. We've spoken about it before. That's what Malagueño's for, is to feed the first team eventually. And look, like we said about on the live streams the other day, let's use him whilst the guy's hot. For all we know, this could be a unbelievable once-in-a-lifetime season for the kid. He then gets tied down to a 3-year deal on, it's not going to be a huge wage, don't get me wrong. Next season, he might not be bagging in Malagueño, or he might struggle in the first team. Let's get him in there whilst the confidence is high. I just have a little concern, Nick, that the rest of the contract talks seem to have gone a little bit quiet with the players who were running out at the end of the season.
I was going to mention that to you briefly as well, actually, because I suppose the main two we're looking at, Luke, is the other wonder kid from Malaga, straight from Atletico Malagueño. That's Antonito. But also Kevin as well, who became a father earlier. So I'm sure Matt and Chris made a big deal about that. We've not had our chance to pass on our congratulations to the young man now with a brand new baby. But yeah, concerning that those two haven't yet put pen to paper at the moment. It's looking a bit dark, and only a few days left of the transfer as well, if you wanted to get rid of him for CAF.
Yeah, he seems to have gone quite quiet on the matters. Obviously, the Antonito was a very hot conversation a month ago. Whether Malaga's succeeded in defeat with Antonito, and they've agreed to use him till the end of the season, which if he is going at the end of the season, get him in the first team, get him playing still. The Kevin one's interesting though, because a real fan favourite, his performances aren't always there, but a player what I would love to keep at Malaga. There just doesn't seem to have been any rumours. There doesn't seem to have been any contract talks. The other two names what I've got written down is Einar Galilea and Manu Molina. I think their contracts are different, though. I think we have a year's extension to trigger on Einar. And a really cool one, I guess, now that it's nearly triggered, the Manu Molina. I think it was 4 games back. I saw that Manu's got to play another 470 minutes of first-team football, say. He's probably got to play one more game to be offered an extension on his deal. I know he's a real favourite of yourself, Nick, but Manu's made for this league. He really is. And the quicker that we can get these contracts sorted, the quicker we can start looking towards next season as well.
Yeah, I imagine they're ones that look after themselves, especially with the age of those players concerned. And what I would give to see another season of Manu Molina in the blue and white of Malaga. He's such a classy player. And staying with Einar as well, I think, we've got a plethora of, centre-back options, but he's, not covered himself in, massive amounts of praise in the last few games, but he's certainly a quality player on his day. Looking back to that game against Celta Fortuna at La Rosaleda, that 45 minutes was better than any 45 minutes I've watched from a centre-back ever. So, hopefully more news is coming on those contracts, and hopefully a big announcement this weekend announcing 3 years for Chipete. Speaking of youth products, Luke, you informed me earlier this week that Malaga Juvenil progressed to the quarterfinals of the Youth Cup. I imagine, is it like the mini Copa del Rey, or is it the Premier RF Youth Trophy, or whatever it's called? But in quite dramatic circumstances.
Oh, it really was. I mean, I've kind of called it El Futuro Copa, so the future stars of the cup. Effectively, a really, really good game. I watched it. I watched the second half, which turned out to be a great decision. In the pouring rain, the game were live on YouTube, but Malaga went 2-0 down early doors to Mallorca before bringing it back to 3-2 eventually. 2 goals from Marcos Rosa, and the other player was Saria. I can't tell you much about him apart from Marcos Rosa follows the Geary Cast on Instagram and regularly likes all our stuff. So, vamos, Marcos. But yeah, we had it. Was it last season or a couple of seasons ago where they had a really good run and then eventually got beat to Real Madrid or Barcelona? They beat one of them, lost to the other. But just once more, it just solidifies how good of an academy Malaga have got, and to be progressing to the quarterfinals, playing against the best talents in Spain at them age levels is key. Malaga had a player sent off on the 82nd minute, the captain called Andy. Very cool name. I hoped we can get Andy on the back of his shirts in years to come. But yeah, Malaga now go on to play Real Zaragoza in the semi-final. But a really good game. And if anybody can get it back on YouTube and you've got a couple of 90 minutes spare, I'd fully recommend watching it.
Yeah, definitely. Malaga proving once again that their cantera is a phenomenal one. Like you say, Spain is a hotbed for youth football and the next talents that are coming through. So great to see that Malaga are very much in the mix for silverware. Could be the only silverware that they're in the mix for this year. You've noted here as well, Luke, that there is a familiar face cropping up this weekend in the form of Eder Malo. For people who may not remember, he was the referee who was in charge of that famous night in Tarragona where Antonito scored in the 122nd minute to secure promotion back to Segunda. Yeah, we're going to be able to see him again, won't we? We quite liked him on the day, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, he's our favourite referee, of course. I mean, he made history ripping the referee's shirt and kissing the Malaga tattoo beneath his chest. No, I mean, the main secret with that, he obviously worked for the club, apparently, in Tarragona's eyes. Yeah. I'm sure the guys up in Catalonia would love it if Racing get 3 red cards and Malaga get 4 penalties given to him, just to help them on their little, what is it now, court cases. They're chasing €5 million, is it, or some bollocks? Strange one. I mean, he wasn't even that good for us.
Well, when he's wadding himself down at half time, wiping the sweat off his brow with €50 notes that have been put in a briefcase for him by Sergio Pellicer, and that might be the evidence that Nastic need to finally get vindication on the terrible thing that happened to him that night. But I know Malaga fans will be happy to see him once again. Just also flying through some latest news here on transfers. So we'll get into maybe a player that Malaga are signing in a second. However, more cash coming our way, Luke. This time from Braga again. It seems to be that the links with Braga never end for Malaga. This one being a certain Rodri Salazar. Can't quite get my tongue around that one. Currently in the parish of Braga, moving to Zenit St. Petersburg, which we'll say under hush tones, for 22 million. Malaga due some cash, Luke, aren't they?
Yeah, so don't worry if you've never heard of the player at all. He never played for Malaga. He came through the Cartera and played for Atletico Malagueño for a season before moving on to Eintracht Frankfurt, where, again, he didn't play for them. Several loan spells later, he found himself at our good friends Braga. Been there for quite a long time now, and like Nick rightly says, then it's sent to Petersburg, a bit of 22 million euros. So the interesting thing about this is that Malaga set a 2% sell-on fee donkeys years ago. Good work, I guess, for Malaga. So it's looking like Malaga could potentially be getting some money in the region of about €400,000. Sorry.
Tell you what, we slate Manolo Gaspar for his signings, but his sell-on fee strategy is just paying dividends time and time again, Luke. But I suppose the big question on that is, we never see it. All these millions and thousands of pounds, and where's the money going? They're not back on transfers, I can tell you that for free.
No, the crazy thing about this is I think you mentioned on a previous pod, Nick, the last time Malaga signed a player for any money were, 5 seasons ago? And when you look at the numbers, we must have raked in a good, £5 million over the last couple of seasons with whatever other add-ons, but we don't even know about. And you've just got to think there's got to be something in the kitty somewhere, but where? He just looks like Lauren and Kike Perez are struggling to find this money.
Well, that's it. It must be hidden in a hidden wall somewhere in the middle of La Rosaleda, maybe. Similar to when the Oystons buried the Brett Omerod money. That's how we say it at Bloomfield Road. But yeah, you've got to think the sales of Alex Calvo and Christian in recent years, the sell-on fees that you've had for, was it Ivan Jaime, the Horticays, now this. Roberto as well, famously.
Roberto. These players aren't moving on for small amounts. I mean, even Jaime, I can't remember the facts, but I'm sure it were over £10 million. I think Malaga ended up with at least £500,000 of that. Like you've just said, Roberto, the list is probably endless, and it'd be very interesting if somebody actually got every transfer up. I know this is normally my thing where I go off into my very busy lifestyle and look at every Malaga transfer from the last 10 years. But I understand Malaga's financial issues, the obviously shake and so on, but there's got to be something there for us.
You'd certainly like to think so. Well, I can tell you this for free, Luke. The next signing that we're looking at bringing potential isn't going to cost us anything because he is potentially joining Malaga on loan. I am, of course, talking about Alberto Mari. I'm sure he got a mention on the podcast on Monday, but we'll reiterate this now. Spanish striker with Valencia, if I remember rightly. However, he's currently on loan at Real Zaragoza. A loan which actually costs 1.5 million if transfer market is to be believed, which is more than the combined transfer fee of all our strikers, considering they all cost the square root of jack shit. He's played in 18 games this season so far in Segunda. He's returned an incredible 0 goals and 0 assists. Of course, this is what Malaga need, don't they? With the striking problems we've got, Luke, a striker who has not scored in 18 games is exactly the answer to our problems.
Oh, I'm excited, Nick. Everything about Alberto Mari, the 12 Segunda appearances, the Copa del Rey appearances, 0 goals, like you say. He definitely sounds like one of our boys for sure.
Well, actually, I'm probably doing him a bit of an injustice here because he has scored this season. I imagine you probably got in your notes there, Luke, but do you want to reveal who he scored against?
No, To my understanding, he had scored a goal, but then I thought, I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to correct him. But no, take it away, Nick.
Oh, I will tell you, he scored in the Copa del Rey this season against CE La Hospitalet from the Tercera Federación, obviously down in the what would be the Spanish fifth tier. So yeah, credit where credit's due. He scored against an absolute team of part timers.
And we
fair
know,
play to him, but
it's not an easy place to go to, La Hospitalet. So yeah, he's really excited about this guy. Obviously, everybody knows being very, very sarcastic here, and it appears that Alberto Mari is quite shit. Although Nick, he has actually got quite a lot of appearances for Valencia in La Liga. Did you notice?
I was going to say, this is maybe the caveat to this, and we're probably looking at this through very pessimistic eyes at the moment, considering that what we've seen playing up front this season for us. Spending last season, he had a bad injury last season as well with his groin, I think it was. So he's had to recover from that. He made a lot of cameo appearances for Valencia in La Liga last year, but if I remember rightly, Valencia were in a bit of still are in a bit of a horror show when it comes to their finances and how they recruit and who they play. He did have quite a productive spell in Segunda Federación with Valencia B, 11 goals in 28 games in the season before that. But it doesn't fill you with confidence, does it, Luke? When really, if we've got ambition, we should be going for a little bit better than this, shouldn't we?
Yeah, it doesn't. Obviously, we all did the Wikipedia check, and I think he scored. I think we saw he got some like 18 or 24 goals in 50 on appearance. Thinking, aye, goal scorer. When you click on it and break it down, he's had the good season. What you mentioned then, Nick. He did interestingly score 3 goals in La Liga as well. He was playing under Ruben Baraja, which is obviously a Valencia legend. So he's brought him through the academy. He just what makes you think, why is he then gone out on loan? Maybe it is for recovery time from the injury. But if you're dropping down leagues after a big injury and then you're still not proving much, then I mean, if Zaragoza spent 1.5 million euros on a loan, like why the hell has he not been starting?
Well, the one thing I will say about Real Zaragoza, and we witnessed this last weekend, they are not the most attacking team in the world. So maybe a different system, stick him up there alongside, your Antonitos, your Kevins, your David Larubias. We might be talking a different thing. So if he does sign, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But I've got a bit of a feeling of the Avilases about this one as well. He's got to rock up with a shirt up.
A bit of signs of desperation, maybe. Although, after listening to the review show, I agree with Chris when he mentioned about Malaga's business seems to be done on the final day, where they do the old football manager, chuck it out to all agents and just say, look, guys, who is available? Send me a list. I don't care who it is. Send me a list and we'll try work something out. So I do expect us to sign a striker, whether it is Alberto Mari or not. We need somebody who's going to score goals.
Absolutely. And one man, obviously, who is being told to sort of maybe look outside the door or spend the rest of the season in the stands is Sergio Castel. So, it's a shame it's not worked out for him, but Malaga need to get somebody in to come and replace that place in the squad, really. So, interesting times. I think the transfer window in Spain is aligned with the UK, which is weirdly closing on the 3rd of February, 11 o'clock at night. So, many movements still to be made. Let's see if Malaga can strengthen as they go into the second half of the season, which they haven't started off particularly well. And it doesn't get any easier because we go to the league leaders this weekend, Racing Santander, managed by an old friend of ours, Jose Alberto Lopez. He's having a great time up there at the moment. However, we can't always claim to know everything about every single team in this league. However, we have a little line into some people who were at La Rosaleda last weekend doing a wonderful tour of Andalusia. We ring up Mr. Alex Fitzpatrick. We say, drop us some knowledge, Alex, stick it on a clip, and we'll play it like we are going to right now.
On Saturday night, Malaga take on Racing Santander in El Sadinero, up in the north of Spain. Windy, cold, rainy at this time of year. And Racing Santander are the current leaders of Segunda División. In fact, they spent the vast majority of the first half of the season as leaders of Segunda División until they went through a 6-game patch without a win. That was just before Christmas, but they broke it. They broke that patch and came back to winning ways 2 games ago with a 6-0 victory at home to Racing Club de Ferrol. And since they've made it 2 wins in a row, because we saw them on the Spanish Segunda weekend against Cordoba, where they won by 2-1, coming from behind. And there's some selection questions for the coach, but nice selection questions to have, because he's got a lot of quality and a lot of people knocking on the door. Will it be Caricaburu, who had a huge impact in last weekend's victory off the bench, or Arana? Victor Meseguer is a new signing. He's also pushing for a place. And this team has 3 of the best attacking players in Segunda División behind their forward. Andres Martin on the right, Inigo Vicente and Pablo Rodriguez, who interchange between the number 10 and left wing position. That said, the thing that intrigues me most about this game this weekend is actually, well, I was going to say off the pitch, but it's sort of still on the pitch. It's referee Mayo Fernandez. He was the referee of Malaga's playoff final victory against Nastic de Tarragona in the second leg, that controversial one, that one that's been taken to a legal case. Well, the judge this week has upheld it and said that it will go to courts, and the league, the federation, have decided in their wisdom to assign to Racing Santander against Malaga Mayo Fernandez as the referee, the same man that is being taken to court for corruption and falsification of documents in that second leg of the playoff final. Quite a bizarre decision from the federation, and I'm sure that it won't affect the game. I'm not bringing into question his sort of integrity at all, but it just seems like a very bizarre decision from the federation. Let's hope there's no controversial decisions on Saturday night. That's Racing Santander against Malaga, Saturday night, 9 p.m. Spanish time.
As always, if you ever want to catch anything extra about the Spanish Segunda, head over to the Spanish Segunda podcast, where Alex and Liam will always keep you up to date with everything happening in the league. Interesting, that one, Luke, because obviously we didn't mention that in our bit of news earlier. I'm a bit less happy to hear about seeing this referee, who might feel like he's being persecuted on our behalf potentially, but
I'm glad that you share the same thoughts, because as Alex was speaking, then I was thinking, I thought this was all a bit of a piss take with Tarragona, and it really isn't. I mean, what is the best outcome Saturday? A Racing player gets sent off? Probably not, because that's going to make everything blow up even more. Or does Mr. Eder Malo think, let me get a bit of credit back? Penalty against Malaga.
That's exactly it.
I hope it is a clean game.
I've got to prove that I'm not Malaga biased, so I'm going to go. I'm going to go the opposite direction on this one. So I am a bit more skeptical about that one now, if I'm being perfectly honest. But we'll hope for the best. We'll hope for the best. It's going to be a tough challenge anyway, Luke. Obviously, Racing Santander, who I don't think have been outside the top 3 since Jornada 3. It's a big ask to go and perform there. The one thing I will say about Racing Santander this season is that the real success behind them has been their away form. Their home form actually not as good as you would think it would be for a team that are currently top of the tree at the end of January. Only 5 wins at home so far this season. So I take a bit of hope out of that. But then also hearing, Luke, that they won their last home game 6-0 takes it out of you a little bit, doesn't it?
It does. Again, I was very surprised to see the stat when I was doing my research that they have only won 5 games. But Jose Alberto Lopez, like you just mentioned, Nick, has done a fantastic job with Racing. And like Alex said, then the 6-0 win against Ferrol, and then to go away to Estadio El Arcangel to beat Cordoba, where not many teams have gone and took away 3 points this season. That shows me that Racing are the real deal. Again, as Alex mentioned, then they had the blip in December. But if you're a title chasing team, you've got to recover from that blip. And Racing Santander are definitely proving that they are good enough for that. They've got the bounce back ability to chase this title.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, you speak about those people who sort of like sitting behind the strikers, the Rodriguez's, the Andres Martin. How he's still at Santander, I do not know. I thought he would have got picked up.
16 goals at goal contributions this season for Andres Martin. And like Alex mentioned, then Inigo Vicente, 11. I mean, that's 25 goals or assists between two players. Have we got 25 goals in our team? We might have just hit maybe.
Even behind them, ahead of them, you look at Arana and, six goals for a striker, who is basically playing second fiddle to his midfielders a minute. It's only the same as Dione scored. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's not all that, but
very good size. And the centre forward Caricaburo, going back a long time on my football manager days, Caricaburo were a bit of an exciting wonder kid. And I don't know if you remember it all, Nick, but I think it was last summer or the summer before, we was quite heavily linked with him coming out of the Real Sociedad academy. And obviously he went to Racing Santander, where I don't think it's always been plain sailing, but there has been a player there. So we really need to be concerned about the attacking threat of Racing Club de Santander.
It shall be as well. It shall be. And I won't claim to know loads about the Sangali family tree. However, Luca's younger brother, Marco Sangali, he has been involved a lot with Racing and their success this season, probably unlike his brother Luca with Malaga so far. So a nice little reunion there. I couldn't help but notice as well, you mentioned about the away form on Jose Alberto Lopez, Luke. 5 wins at home, loads of wins away. Sounds a little familiar. I don't know if you remember that first half of that season under Jose Alberto Lopez, but a home win was hard to come by under him, if I remember rightly. But away form was excellent. It seems to be his MO, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Exciting times for Malaga when he came from Mirandes, I think it was.
It was, yeah.
Lovely jazzy trainers, bit of style coming in, a manager with style that we hadn't seen in a long time. And it was just hit and miss, wasn't it? I think looking back at the squad, what we had at that time, we were always destined for the doom. Obviously, the finance issues with the club. That was probably middle factor of when Malaga was heading one direction, wasn't it? If we had Jose Alberto Lopez at a different time, i.e., say now, I think he could really progress Malaga something big.
Well, that was going to be the next question. I'm sure we asked it the last time we played Racing at home at La Rosaleda, I think in the beginning of December, end of November. Can't quite remember which one it was. But did we pot him too early, do you reckon? Because quite clearly he's got, Racing playing here. He kept them up last season. He's now, transformed them into title contenders, with a very... on the outface of it, I don't think anyone would have expected this from Santander this season. They had some decent signings, but nothing that was going to light the world on fire. So if it had given a little bit longer and bloody Nacho Gonzalez, if you remember him, came knocking instead.
Your old friend Pablo Guede.
Yeah.
Things like that. We were just never going to work. I mean, again, if somebody has the time or whatever to look into Jose Alberto Lopez's actual career with Racing Santander, I bet his win rate's about 60% because Racing were flirting with relegation last season. Then I think Jose Alberto came in about January-ish, and then the form, what they hit were incredible. And then they've obviously taken it onto this season. Am I right in thinking, Nick, that they actually broke some European record with I think they won the first 8 away games on the bounce or something along them lines? A really incredible run.
It wouldn't surprise me. I think, like I say, their form just before that little blip that yourself and Alex were referring to was incredible. At one point they did have, I think it was a 10-12 point lead at the top of the table. Obviously that's now been surrendered in a massive way, which is why they're still up there. But it's those kind of things that allows you to have that blip, allows you to have the opportunity to reset and crack on and still be in the mix, rather than, say, look at Real Zaragoza, who also had a brilliant start to the season, have faded away entirely now and are very much in mid-table with ourselves. So, yeah, it'll be interesting how we do that. Just looking back to the last fixture, Luke, if I remember rightly, you were there. I'm pretty sure that was one of the games you were out for. At the time, like you say, Santander were very in high form. We actually started their blip by securing that draw against them. Was it a classic at La Rosaleda, or, if I remember rightly, it was a bit of a non-event?
It was a strange game. Looking back at it now, you just refreshed my memory, Nick, that we was the team to stop this incredible away form. I think they'd won 7 out of 7. Came to La Rosaleda, again, 10 points clear or whatever it was. And we learned that Malaga can be a match for anybody on the day. It's just that day just seems to just be slowing down a little bit. I know we've lost 2 out of 2, but I don't know our actual current form. Just it's a little bit concerning. The crowd in La Rosaleda that night were a big factor. Malaga could easily have scored 2 or 3 goals. Labete missed an absolute sitter. But that is also signs of good teams. A lot of teams don't expect to come to La Rosaleda and take 3 points. It's all right saying Malaga was the better team and should have won. But at the end of the day, Racing came away with a point, and a very important point. So it's not going to be easy in El Sadinero. I don't expect an attacking performance from Malaga like we saw in La Rosaleda. It's just going to be an awkward day, really awkward day, I think.
Yeah, it will be an interesting one. I'd like to say, the same atmosphere that can be drummed up in La Rosaleda, there are few places, and obviously that it's been nominated for an award recently on the back of that, which I'm sure Matt and Chris mentioned earlier in the week. But El Sadinero is another one of those places as well. It is a cauldron that you go into, and it's very, very noisy. The very passionate fans up there as well, and love their club. Maybe looking ahead to what Malaga will look to do with their starting 11, Luke, because there obviously was some bad news that came out of last weekend. Luismi faces a bit of a lengthy spell on the treatment table. We've had a bit of to and fro in the WhatsApp. I know we've both put thoughts on Twitter as well about who should come in and replace such an integral part of Malaga's team this year. His experience and his pattern of play is second to none. So I'll allow you to maybe share your thoughts. What would you do? Put your Paysair hat on right now. How do you replace a man like Luismi?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, this injury couldn't really come at a worse time for us with the fixtures, what's coming ahead. But for me, on Saturday night, we've got to approach with caution. We can't be there. We can't go there chasing Racing Santander down straight away. For me, we've got to be looking at something like a 4-5-1, more of a 4-3-3. Importantly, we don't concede early. If we concede early in El Sadinero, then this could end up with their firepower. It could be a long, long night for Malaga. For me, in the 4-5-1, you're looking at Antonito and potentially Kevin or Larrubia, probably Larrubia, getting close to Dione when we're on that counter-attack. But for Malaga, they really need to concentrate in this one. We've gave some silly goals away defensively lately. I'd probably revert back to what I call the original back four: Joaquin, Nelson Monte, Einar Galilea, and Victor Garcia. I just think I think all the players deserve the chances, but for me, I like a back four to stay a back four. Even if that's Puga starting instead of Joaquin, I've got no problems with that. Likewise, the other side, Danny Sanchez has had a good couple of months. So either side, but the middle two for me, I really want to see Einar and Nelson Monte back in there. Obviously, Luismi coming out. The big question: who comes in? For me, it's time for. I'm sure you tweeted it out as well, Nick. Izan Moreno. This is the time, and we could unlock something special. He's captain Spain at all youth levels. This is the time for him. If Ramon is fit, I'd love to see Ramon and Manu Molina in there as well with him. I think the experience, what they can help Izan Moreno with, and just slowing the game down a little bit. I think it's key that Malaga try and keep the fans quiet in El Sadinero.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I said the same thing about Izan as well. We've seen Antonito come through. You've seen, obviously, the emergence of Chupete now as well. Izan is thereabouts. Yeah. And I think in this game especially, we've got a great balance in there between Molina and Luismi, because Luismi allows Molina to do what he needs to do. You know, Molina is great at picking the ball up and moving forwards to slightly and then picking a great pass, whereas he needs that dogged terrier in alongside him, which is when, you know, Luismi's there to mop up and, you know, pick up his man and basically block anything in front of those two centre-backs. When you're up against someone like Andres Martin, who will flirt between going left, going right, staying through the middle, you've got to have someone in there that's going to basically just stick on him. And I think Izan can do that. I'd love to see Ramon play more, but there's that risk that you burn him out straight away and it ends up being a high-time situation where he's back in the treatment room, and that's not good for him or Malaga. So putting him in that kind of situation for me would be quite negligent. But that being said, you've got to use him, you know. So where would you put Ramon? I'd certainly be looking at putting him just ahead of Izan and Molina as well. The striking situation is just what it is.
Exactly. I don't think Dione is the man to play as a lone striker away in Racing Santander, but who else have we got? Look, if he's not starting Chipetti in home games against Real Zaragoza and teams like that, he's not going to chuck him in as our number 9 away in El Sadinero.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And as much as I'd like to see it, this is a reality of Sergio Pay's, unfortunately. He's a pragmatist, and that's what he'll do. I like your ideas about the back four as well. I'd always start Puga over Joaquin, and I think the last time that Joaquin played against Jeremy, or Jeremy, he had a torrid afternoon, which is fair play. I'd have a torrid afternoon against that guy as well, to be perfectly honest. He was electric. Second to him, or even ahead of him, like you say, some of the players that we're talking about, Vicente or Andres Martin, I think Puga just edges him a little bit. And the same with Dani Sanchez as well. Unfortunately, with Victor, I said on the post live stream, I think Victor is just not at this level, unfortunately. And that's, you know, due to a multitude of factors. That left back position for us is a weak area, of which I think Dani Sanchez is deputising above what he can do in the last few games as well. So it will be very interesting come Saturday evening, Luke, because it's going to be an opportunity to pull a surprise, I reckon, would be the way.
Yeah, we'd take that point now, won't we? If we're offered that point, I think we've got
absolutely.
I think we've got to.
And that's it. You look at the 4 games that we will have played in January then as well. Obviously, the 2 losses, you know, the draw against Depor at home, it's not the best start to 2025.
No.
We go into February and it doesn't get much easier. Like you say, we've got Racing Santander this weekend. We're then away to Levante. We're at home against Levante, who currently sit in 4th in the league table, performing very, very well. Obviously, put us to the sword when we were riding high earlier on in the season. But then you get to the back half of February, a nice little treat around Valentine's Day from me to you, Luke Chambers, a trip to bottom of the league, Cartagena, and then also then a home game against Tenerife to round off February. So a mixed bag, isn't it? And a good opportunity for Malaga to solidify themselves in mid-table, which is what we'd quite want, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I was thinking about this at work last night, and for me, this is the biggest month of the season so far. If we can nick a point in Santander and then Levante at home, it's a good club. It's a very good team who's on fire at the moment. We don't know what's going to happen there in La Rosaleda. The next 2 games, Cartagena and Tenerife, are vital that we at least take 4 points at the very least. If we can pick up 6 points, I'm not saying we're safe. There's still a long way to go, but you start looking at that league table, the 4 teams what are in that relegation zone. You start thinking, are they good enough to bring back a 10-point deficit against Malaga? I personally don't think they are. The key is that we do not drop points against Cartagena and Tenerife, because then going into the start of March, we've got a very tough Andaluz derby away at Almeria, and then we've got a very tough Andaluz derby at home to Cadiz. Then, if we haven't really picked up any points, that's when you start looking at that league table. I think it might start looking a little bit different at that point.
Yeah, there's currently a 6-point gap between the final relegation place, which is currently occupied by El Dense on 24 points, and 31 Malaga at the minute. It's a nice to have. I I think you look at your Tenerifes and your Cartagenas though at the moment and think you're pretty much on. You got 15 points for Cartagena, 16 for Tenerife. Castellón down there as well at the moment, just 5 points clear at the moment. So, many people can get pulled into that. But you're absolutely right. By the end of February, you could probably have a good idea of what you need to do to stay in Segunda for another season as well. So
I don't think those teams in that bottom four are good enough to catch. I dare say that bottom four is the bottom four what will eventually fall. But we don't want to sweat, do we? The only sweat we want is in Rosaleda because it's so fucking warm and we're 3-0 up in a game. We don't want all this relegation threatened stuff all over again. We just want a nice chilled out season. Let's enjoy it. We don't want to be looking over our shoulders.
Well, but that can also breed sometimes a bit of complacency, Luke, on that front, because you could get to March and you could look at it and go, you know what? We're pretty certain we're all right. But then you look up and like, for example, Malaga are 10 points off Mirandes in sixth. Yeah. And you start to go, well, we might still be 10 points, 12 points by that point off the playoffs. Well, let's just relax. It's not what we want to see, is it, Luke? We want to see a good end to the season and challenging.
The interesting thing with this league, and it always has been with Segunda, is that anybody can beat anybody. If I don't know, come the start of March, if we're still 10 points off that playoffs, or even if we could have narrowed that little gap a little bit, then you can start focusing up as well. We're not just being negative and thinking about relegation and so on. It's just a key for where Malaga are and where Malaga want to be. This is a key month for me. It really is.
It is, and that month starts after the Racing Santander game, but we'll include it just for the stage of 4 games in advance. It's going to be a massive weekend for Malaga and a massive February for the club as well. And hopefully, fingers crossed, there might be some new faces in on transfer deadline day to help us do that, because God knows we need a striker in at the moment. And maybe if our prayers are answered, that might be the way to go. But we'll wrap up there, Luke. That's been a great preview for me. I think we've managed to cover off a lot of news there and everything. We'll have a review of the Racing Santander game out next week. Don't believe there's any plans for live streams this weekend. It's a Saturday evening game when we all like to go out and have a few drinks in the bars in St. Anne's this weekend. So come and say hello if you see me. I don't know if you will. But I'll say thank you, Luke, for joining me for this evening.
Thank you very much, mate. We all know Nick's plans for the weekend anyway. So when I text him saying, Nick, can you just sort that out? Nah, nada.
Can you do half hour full time? I'll say yes. I can't guarantee it'll get done.
There's I dare say there's zero chance of a live stream at the weekend, guys. I'm at Barnsley on my ground upping, and then obviously the start of, I know we don't talk about egg chasing, but the rugby starts, so full focus in there. But yeah, like Nick says, the transfer window's coming to an end. If we do have any listeners of the Scandic region or anything like that who's bagging 30, 40 goals a season, just drop us a little DM and we'll see what we can do in terms of forwarding it to the club.
Yeah, well, we've got links. We've got links, Luke, haven't we? So let's see if we can turn this international link into a scouting network. Let's see what we can do for Malaga Club de Football. But thank you once again, Mr. Chambers. Enjoy your shift at work tonight, and I'll see you again very, very soon. And thank you to everyone listening at home. Your support is always appreciated, and if you could, go give us a little 5-star review on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast. It always helps get the message of Malaga out there to the international community. So once again, I've been your host, Nick Bell. Thank you very much. Gracias and hasta luego. Goodbye.